The goal is not to become a good meditator. The goal is to become free. And we back, talking Daily Vedantic. Today's reflection is on the gospel that we are all served. I touched on it yesterday's episode, but we are served so often, and that is the gospel of more. You see, everybody's on a pulpit preaching something, and whether that's literal and physical, or whether that is from the microphone in their phone, whether that is the microphone right in front of me right now, preaching something. Most of the time, and coming from Silicon Valley, a decade spent in San Francisco building startups in the epicenter of the place to do it around the world. I found it so fascinating that no one would really talk about healthy growth of your company. No one would talk about progress might actually be in slowing down, fixing things, getting your house in order. It's very rare to ever hear someone use a term like, let's slow things down. I don't know if I ever heard that actually. The gospel is whatever you're doing more is obviously better. Growing 7% month over month? Well, what would it look like if you're growing 10? It's obviously better. There is no downside to more. Grow 25% month over month. Man, did you hear about so-and-so's company? They're growing 35% month over month. Unreal, and that is undebatedly awesome. That's so great that they're doing that. And well, everyone should aspire to that. Startups in many ways in Silicon Valley and through a program called Y Combinator that I went through when I was 25. Startups are growth. It is the point to have a startup is to get more faster than any incumbent in whatever space or sector you're going after. It's the same in our day-to-day lives pretty much everywhere around the world when it comes to financial security, when it comes to your own influence in the community around you. More is always better. Now, we know there are examples where more isn't better. Exponential growth, when it happens in society, you got 10 friends, wouldn't 20 be better? You got some healthy financial milestones under your belt, but shouldn't you diversify them and then get more of all 5 of them? The gospel of more. Endless, blind, and repeated everywhere. Is the phrase too much? Is that ever even uttered in our society? In the circles that you run in? I heard this one person recently say that they wanted to cap their success. It's the first time in my life that I've ever heard anyone articulate that they want to cap their success. Then this wasn't a business figure. This was just a really inspirational individual on a podcast. Alan Watts would often say that enough is as good as a feast. You can't drive 12 Ferraris. You can't eat 12 steaks. Enough is as good as a feast. That's not what we hear. That's not what we subscribe to in our day-to-day lives. We subscribe to the gospel of more. Whatever we got, as they say. After 6 weeks, your raise just becomes your salary. What is also even more pernicious in this topic is that religion so often is used just as a means to get more. You have people that look at God as a genie in a bottle, someone to grant you wishes if you're close enough to that deity, if you ask enough. It's used to reinforce your desires instead of the purpose, to lean on the supreme being, to detach from your personal selfish desires. As Christ said, thy will be done. That is the instruction of the prayer. And it's not just religions. Meditation has been taken, packaged, bottled up as something that you do in order to get more, which is how it was first taught to me. It also is so laughable in the context of learning what meditation is, what it is for. So what is the alternative to the gospel of more? Well, Vedanta has a very clear alternative. It is the gospel of freedom. In the case of meditation, Ram Dass famously quipped that the goal is not to become a good meditator. The goal is to become free. The gospel is not to get more money, more houses, more security in this impermanent existence. This existence that will give you anything but security. And it takes 30 seconds of the rational mind to understand that. And yet, we push that off. It is the symbol of what we want. We think more is going to give us that security. That security will give us that freedom. This philosophy says just go right to the end. Pursue, orient yourself around freedom from the get-go. What does that look like instead of chasing more? It's chasing a mastery of oneself internally. Prosperity, as I say in this podcast quite often, prosperity has nothing to do with riches, with your financial bank account. Prosperity simply, this isn't philosophy. This is just logic. Prosperity is when your means supersede your desires. Do your means supersede your desires? So you can either get there by increasing your means or you can get there by decreasing your desires. Which is in our control more than the other? Which one is in our control more than the other? Is it increasing our means to an infinite degree, or is it decreasing our desires? If prosperity is a euphemism for freedom, which is easier to master? That outside, external world and the means that is infinite chase never seems to be enough. We chat about it. We've mentioned on the podcast before when Rockefeller, the richest man in the world, was asked how much is enough. And he said in jest, half joking, half serious, just a little bit more. It's a pursuit that has no end, or you can reduce your desires to below whatever your means are today. And it's a near instant pursuit. It's prosperity. It's freedom. It is through internal inquiry, reflection, and mastery. But it is not in more. That is today's reflection on the Daily Vedantic. We'll see you next time.